Hi everyone and welcome to part 2. So part 1 we discussed about forward rates, so we'll continue with par yields. So what is a par yield? Par yield is a yield. The par yield is the coupon payment, right? Coupon payments that equate a par value issued bonds when it is discounted at zero rates. So once again, par yield is a coupon payment. Par yield is a coupon payment that equates a par issue bond, right? A par issue bond which is discounted at zero rate. For example, we know in the last example of zero rate for 6 months, zero rate for 1 year, zero rate for 1.5 years, zero rate for 2 years. So we have to find out coupons that you're going to receive if the bond is issued at $100. So that is called as par yield. So in this case, you have to do it by trial and error, and if you solve it, it should be 6.87. Now, solving these questions is not part of your syllabus because it has to be done by trial and error. So you just have to remember that par yield is nothing but the coupon rate you receive when a bond is issued at par and it is discounted using zero rates. In general, so there is a shortcut method that is generally shows up in the exam. So these things would be given to you. So coupon you have to calculate. So coupon, that is par yield, equals 100 minus 100 into D. Discount factor would be given to you, right? Discount factor is nothing but what is the discount rate for $100 at the end, right? M is frequency, and generally it is semi-annual, so 2, and A is present value of $1 of coupon. So A is present value of $1 of coupon, D is present value factor of $100 that you receive at the end, and you solve it and generally you get an answer. So that is nothing but par yield. So again, data to determine treasury zero curve. So we can find out zero curve based on prices that are trading in the market. So for example, $100 par value bond which has 3 months 25%, so 3 months to maturity, is traded at 97.5, and a bond that is 2 years to maturity is traded at 101. Now these things are very easy. You just put in the compounding frequency formula and find out the rate you are getting. But when coupon payments are received, then it becomes an issue. So you actually have to draw a timeline and then discount it. So example, in this case, like $8 coupon that you're going to, that you're receiving, then you have to draw the timeline. So example, an amount 2.5 can be earned on 97.5 when you invest in the first bond during 3 months. So 3-month rate is 4 times 2.5 divided by 97.5, that is 10.25% with quarterly compounding. In the previous class we saw how to convert quarterly compounding to continuous compounding. We always use continuous compounding whenever we are discussing derivatives. So you have to find continuous compounding rate. Similarly, a 6 months and 1 year is easy. So it will be nothing but 100 divided by 90 to the power interest rates, like 100 divided by 90 minus 1, that will be this. It will be 100 divided by 94.9 to the power 1 by to the power 2 in this case. So you can find it out easily by using present value future value function. Okay, so 6 months rate is easy, but 1.5 becomes difficult because it is going to pay you $8 coupon every year, so $4 every 6 months. So in 1.5 years, what you're going to receive? $4 coupon to begin with, then $4 coupon at the end of the year, then 104 years coupon, right? And you have to find out R, interest rate. So we are using bootstrapping. We found out rate for 6 months, we found out rate for 1 year. So assume that rate for 1.5 year is R, equate it to the price 96 and solve for R. So if you solve for R, it comes to 10.681%. So similarly, once you have this rate, you can find out rate for 2 years. So we will solve some problems in classroom, so you will be able to understand it better there. Okay. So if you draw a timeline, if you draw a line, you can see that the interest rates are increasing. As the maturity increases, the zero rates are increasing. And generally, if you do not have data, you just assume it is a horizontal line. So it is horizontal line from 0 to 0.5, and it is an horizontal line after 2 years because you do not have data, and rest of it you can plot. The important part, interest rates are increasing as the time period increases. Application of OIS rate. OIS rate up to 1 year are generally zero rate. OIS rates beyond 1 year are par yields. So you have to calculate par yields. We know coupon payments that equate $100 par value to $100 face value and discounted at zero rates. These are that becomes the coupon yield. That is nothing but par yield, and that is OIS rate. Now what is forward rate? And this is important. Forward rate is the future zero rate implied by today's term structure of interest rate. So it means what is the interest rate expected after 1 year. So expectation of interest rates is nothing but forward rates. Now forward, this formula is important. You have to sometimes you have to calculate forward rates. So forward rates can be calculated from zero rates. So formula is forward rate for time period 1 equals to for zero rate at time period 2 into time period whatever is given minus zero rate in the previous time period into time in the previous and divided by T2 minus T1. The formula is only approximately true when rates are not expressed in continuous compounding. So let's try to do this so that you understand, because it is important for exam. So I'll copy this to Excel. Okay. So these are zero rates. So if you want to find out forward rate for a particular period, how do you do it? So it is forward rate in the next period. I'll put brackets in. Forward rate into the next period into the period that is mentioned minus, sorry, it's a zero rate, not forward rate. So zero rate in the next period. So I'll open the bracket. Zero rate in the next period multiplied by time period, the corresponding time period, minus zero rate in the previous period into time period divided by difference between time periods. So this should be here. So this is forward rate at time period 3. So forward rate at time period 3 equals interest rate at time period 3 into time period 3 minus interest rate at time period 4, interest rate at time period 2 into 2. So let's calculate this. So in forward rate at time period 4 will be rate right now multiplied by 4 minus rate previous multiplied by 3 divided by difference between 2. 4 minus 3. And finally, if you want to calculate at time period 5, it will be for zero rate at time period 5 into 5 minus zero rate at time period 4 into 4 divided by time period 5 minus 4, difference between 2. Okay, so brackets are problem probably, that's why. So this is wrong in the book, it should be 7.5, not 6.5. So let's do it again so that we are sure that we are not going wrong. This into period 5 minus this into period 4 divided by 5 minus 4. Yeah, so it should be 7.5 in the book. So if we calculate forward rate here, 4, always brackets, so 4 into 2 minus 3 into 1 divided by 1. 4 minus 3 is 1, so it is 5. So this should be 7.5. Okay, so this is how you calculate forward rates. Time period right now minus rate right now minus time period given, means corresponding time period, minus previous one divided by T2 minus T1. Next, if forward rates are greater than zero rates, which are greater than par yields, then you get an upward sloping yield curve. Okay, and if par yields are greater than zero rates, so what does it mean is, if forward rate is less than the zero rate right now, right, you will see a downward sloping yield curve. If forward rate is greater than zero rate right now, you will see an upward sloping yield curve. 99% of the time you will get an upward sloping yield curve, because there are different theories of interest rates, but one theory suggests that longer is the time frame, more should be the rate. So if it is in the future, the interest rate should be more to compensate for the time frame, right? So that's why yield curve is generally upward sloping 99% of the time, but sometimes it is downward sloping. When people are afraid for the long term, they are not sure like what will happen in the long term, so they may float into short-term instrument. They may invest everything into short-term instrument. That can create a downward sloping yield curve. Next, a forward rate agreement. So FRA, a forward rate agreement is an OTC agreement that a certain LIBOR rate will apply to a certain principal during future period. So what is an FRA? FRA is an agreement to exchange floating rate LIBOR with a fixed rate. FRA is an agreement to exchange floating rate for a fixed rate. Either you pay floating and receive fixed, or you pay fixed and receive floating. Either of the two. And FRA is FRA we are going to discuss in interest rate derivatives, so it is briefly mentioned here. So we are not going to spend too much time, but conceptually you have to understand. We are going to discuss it in detail. We are also going to price FRA. FRA is simply exchanging your cash flows. So you are replacing your floating rate with fixed rate, or you are replacing your fixed rate with floating rate. An FRA is an equivalent to an agreement where interest rate at a predetermined rate RK is exchanged for an floating rate LIBOR. An FRA can be valued by assuming that forward LIBOR rate RF is certain to be realized. So generally when FRA are issued, right, then they have zero value. So present value is generally 0 when they are issued, but the value of FRA changes as the rates change. This means that value of an FRA is the present value of difference between interest rate that would be paid at interest rate RF and the interest rate that would be paid at RK. So later on when the interest rates change, then FRA receives value. They have given few examples. A company has agreed that it will receive 4% on 10 million for 3 months starting in 3 years. The forward rate for the period between 3 and 3.25 is 3%. The value of the contract is 250,000 discounted from time frame 3.25 to time 0 at an OIS rate. suppose the rate changes. So you're going to receive fixed 4% and you're going to pay floating. So this is an agreement where you're going to receive fixed 4% and you're going to pay floating rate, right? So if interest rate goes up, you lose money because you have to pay more and receive less. But if interest rate goes down, you gain money. So if interest rates are going to 4.5%, then you're going to lose money. 125,000 will be lost at 3.25 years point. Often FRA is settled at 3 years for a present value. So we are going to discuss this in interest rate derivative. So I am not going to take too much of your time. But what happens is, though the payment is due when the FRA is and when FRA ends at 3.25 years, but the FRAs are always settled at the beginning. So don't get bogged down right now. Just try to understand what is an FRA. FRA is where you replace a fixed interest rate for a floating. Sometimes you receive fixed and pay floating. Sometimes you pay floating and sometimes you receive floating and you pay fixed. In this case, you're receiving fixed but paying floating. So whenever interest rate goes up, you will suffer loss. When interest rate goes down, you will make money. Okay. Now, what are future interest rates dependent on? Future interest rates are dependent on different things. So there are 3 different theories. The first theory suggests that forward rates equal to expected future rates. So whatever the future rates are there in the market, that is nothing but the forward rate, which is not necessarily true. Okay, future rates, forward rates and zero rates can be different. We have discussed it. Then there is market segmentation theory. That theory suggests that all 3 interest rates are different markets. So short-term interest rates, generally banks get involved. So banks buy and sell. So they are driven by banks. Long-term interest rates are where pension funds are involved. Pension funds generally invest for longer time in longer duration bonds. So that's why pension funds determine the buying and selling by pension funds determine interest rates in long term. And in medium term, everyone else is involved. Okay, so market segmentation means each market is separate, the players are separate, and buying and selling will determine that. And liquidity preference theory means forward rates are higher than the zero rates, because if you have to wait for future, then you would like to be paid more. So that's why forward rates are generally more than zero rates. Now they have given an example. Suppose that outlook for interest rate is flat. So if this is the case, like if company plays a flat rate, so what does liquidity preference theory suggest? Liquidity preference theory suggests that deposit rate on a 1-year deposit will be less than 5-year deposit. Means if you're issuing a deposit for 5 years, you have to pay more than a year, more than 1 year rate. And same way, if you're issuing a mortgage rate that is locked for 5 years, you have to charge more interest rate. So interest rate increases as the time period increases. That's liquidity preference theory. Now if it doesn't happen, what will happen? Everyone will lock in 5-year deposit because the interest rate is fixed at 3%. And everyone will invest in a 1-year deposit. They will not go for 5 years deposit because interest rate is same. And everyone will lock in long-term mortgages because 1-year mortgage is also 6%. Long-term mortgage is also 6%. So banks would have asset liabilities mismatch. Most depositors will take short-term deposit and they will try to roll it over. And most people who take loans will take long-term loans and they will try to roll it over. So this results in an asset liability mismatch. That's why banks have to charge higher interest rate if the duration or the period is higher. Both for deposits, they have to pay more for deposits and they have to charge more for mortgages. So to match the maturities of borrowers and lenders, a bank has to increase long-term interest rates as above. So 3% and 4%, 6% and 7%. Otherwise, they will have asset liability